Okay, why do the baseball gods hate Bowden Francis?
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. If you don't believe me, I have a lower third where I'm called Sully. You can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. If you follow this show or Locked On A's, which is the other show that I host, at least for the next few weeks, if you leave a comment on it, the website's there, on the social media, then use that hashtag EverydaySully. Helps us know who is listening to us every single day. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB. Use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB and win $50 instantly when you play $5. I'm recording this episode on the afternoon of September 11th. And it's a little too close to the previous episode that I did. So I am, no one answered the trivia question yet. So I will repeat the trivia question at the end of this particular episode. Bowden Francis, I feel for the guy. I truly feel for the guy. And I'll tell you, I mean, if you don't know what happened, there are some games still going on right now, and who knows, maybe the greatest ending of any ball game is going to happen, but I can't stay up late tonight, so I'm doing this episode now. And was the 24th day of August. The 28-year-old pitcher for the Blue Jays in his second year was having a decent season, and he's pitched very well recently, thank you very much. And on the 24th, just a couple weeks ago, he was throwing a no-hitter against the Angels. And he took that no-hitter into the ninth inning. And then the leadoff batter for the Angels in the ninth inning was Taylor Ward. And on a 3-2 pitch, Taylor Ward homered, ending the shutout, ending the no-hitter, and ending the complete game because he was immediately lifted for Chad Green. And so here we are, about 3 weeks later, same pitcher on the mound. And by the way, how did he pitch in the games between? He's pitched pretty darn well. The game after the near no-hitter, he threw 7 innings where he let up 1 hit. And then the last game, that was against Boston. And then he pitched 6 innings where he let up 3 runs. Not a bad start. Okay. Today, he's pitching against the Mets in Toronto. And once again, he's throwing a no-hitter. Now, the Blue Jays, because they're stupid and should be a big pennant contender, instead they stink. They only cobbled together 1 run. So it's 1 bagel going to the ninth, but they're giving Bowden Francis the chance to finish up the no-hitter. And what happens? Francisco Lindor, who some people believe is the National League MVP. I am not one of those people, but I believe he's the runner-up. But if you want to see why he is an MVP candidate, he launched a home run. So once again, with 2 times in the last 3 weeks, he's let up a home run that ended a no-hitter. But this time, it tied the game. Now think about that. 3 of his last 4 starts, he allowed 1 hit. He allowed 1 hit against the Angels. He allowed 1 hit over 7 innings against Boston, and he allowed 1 hit against the Mets. That's pretty dang good. You think that kind of pitching and talent in Toronto in a year where there is no runaway great team in the American League might allow the Blue Jays to contend, but here we are. So what do you do? It's the ninth inning, and he's allowed a hit. You better take him out because obviously he's getting shelled. Well, what happened? Suddenly the Blue Jays went to the bullpen and then the roof caved in. And if you take a look, Green, who came in to relieve the last time he had the loss of no-hitter, Green allowed 1 hit and 3 walks in 2/3 of an inning. In comes Cabrera, who allowed 2 hits and a walk in 1/3 of an inning. And the Mets scored 5 runs over 8 innings, 8+ innings. Francis allowed 1 hit, 1 walk, and 1 run. And 2 other pitchers allowed 3 hits, 4 walks, and a home run in 1 inning. Maybe, I don't know, despite the fact that he let up Francisco Lindor's 31st homer, maybe let him finish up the damn game. It's not like he was getting rocked. But as it turned out, the Blue Jays lost their 78th game, which means they almost have to win out to finish above 500, which they will not do. The Mets won their 80th game, which means they just have to win 2 more games and they'll have a winning season. I feel for them. I feel for the Blue Jays and some of the talented players on that team. Vladdy Guerrero Jr. is having a phenomenal year. They've had other players on that team who are terrific, and for reasons no one will ever be able to explain to me. The Blue Jays have made no changes drastically on their team. They seem fine. They're fine. All right. It's time to do the power rankings. We only got a couple more times to do the power rankings here. And the power rankings are going to illustrate the fact that there is no overwhelming favorite in the American League right now or anywhere in baseball right now. There's one overwhelming bad team. There's a team that is 6 losses away from making people forget about the 1962 New York Mets. And I think we know who they are. They're at number 30, Chicago White Sox. And the funny thing is, it feels like the White Sox have had a better week than normally. They picked up a couple wins this week. You think, oh, it's a better week than normal for the White Sox. Yeah, they're 2-8 in their last 10 games. Their record as of this recording is 33-114. And now there's check out Locked On White Sox, and you can listen to the discussion over the fact of the potential new ballpark and potential move. They are A's 2.0 at this point. All right. The bottom ones, Miami, who have lost 92 games. They're the worst team in the National League, and they've dropped 6 of their last 10. They're at number 29. And number 28, also dropping 6 of their last 10 games, also a 90-loss team, are the Colorado Rockies. And then you have the Angels. The Angels, who are 3 games behind the A's in the standings. The Angels, who are just not a baseball team right now. Maybe the worst run team not named the White Sox or the A's. And I say the A's not in terms of the product on the field, but because their staggering incompetence and dishonesty in their front office. And the A's are at number 26. But the Angels are pretty high up there in terms of bad management. The Nats have dropped 7 of their last 10 games. And believe it or not, they were actually a playoff team in June. And there was thoughts of, wait, are the Nats better? The Nats better? Nope, they're not. 64-80 and looking every inch of it right now. At number 24, you have the Toronto Blue Jays, the aforementioned Blue Jays, who should absolutely clean house of everything. They should be a big market, big revenue team with stars. They have an MVP candidate on their team, for God's sakes, and some decent pitching. And here they are dropping the 7 of their last 10 games on the verge of a losing season, and nothing short of an abject disgrace. Sorry, that's just the truth. The Pirates have played better recently, by the way. They've won 7 of their last 10 games. They're at number 23. They're 70-76, which is not great, and it sort of makes it look like they may be sniffing a 500 record, but I don't know. It might be time to change the manager there. I mean, how many losing records can you have? The Texas Rangers, the defending World Series champion, got back Jacob deGrom, and they've won 7 of their last 10 games. It's too little too late, but it's that classic Bruce Bochy. All right, we didn't contend this year, but I dare you to write us off next year. You know the Rangers are going to be terrific next year. They had an off year. Everyone did a quick retreat, and then now they're going to reload, and here we go. The Reds have also won 7 of their last 10 games. They're a big disappointment. They should have been a contender this year, but they're there, and they're going to finish with a sub-500 record, but with talent. Tampa Bay just didn't have it this year. There's a lot of talent on that team and good pitching on that team, but they know when to quit, and they knew that it was time to sell off some players. You knew some players they got from Seattle and everything would turn out to be terrific. They're at number 20. Okay, that's 20 through 30. That's the bottom third. But 10 through 19 shows once again that baseball is absolutely cluttered with a bunch of teams that are not bad, not great, just, a kind of like, okay, a team. Hey, let's talk about our friends over at Prize Picks. You know all about Prize Picks, don't you? Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. So you can go win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as few as 4 correct picks. And Prize Picks is the best way to get on the action in most states, including Texas, Georgia, right here in California. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money as quick as 15 minutes. And Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You could double your money even if one of your picks does not hit. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, it's time to talk to our friends over at FanDuel. You know all about FanDuel, and you've heard us talk about it. It's America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 to get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. And then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. Say that 3 times fast. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel it every time. If that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all of Sunday, September 15th pre-game moneyline bets. Profit Boost will be live starting Thursday. That's probably the day you're listening, the 12th of September. View your account page and learn more about your boost. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. Hey, this is a reminder that Locked On has started the first ever national 24/7 streaming channel for sports news. Locked On Sports Today is available wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube and on Amazon, on the Amazon Fire TV, on the free Fire TV channel app. Check out Locked On Sports Today for all the best news in sports from the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, let's check it out. At number 19, retiring their weird City Connect jerseys with an orange hat, are the Giants. They've lost so many close games this year. I got to do a Giants show because it just seems like every other game that they've played has been, the tying run was on base. They're on the verge of winning. They must, and I don't know if it's recency bias or something, but it seems like they've lost a ton of close games and should be a contender, especially with that pitching staff. Hey, speaking of that pitching staff, doesn't look like the Dan Wilson era has really changed things with the Seattle Mariners. They've dropped 6 of their last 10 games. They're at number 18. Remember they had a 10-game lead this summer? 10-game lead in the AL West. We're thinking this might be the year they finally go to the World Series. Instead, they're 73 and 72 as of this recording, just barely above 500. They look at Dan Wilson is going to look over the team for the rest of the year, but there's some major managerial decisions they have to make, especially since they can pitch. The Cardinals should be contenders as well. They're at number 17. They've gone 5-5 of their last 10 games, are at even 500. They are the definition of a mediocre team. They're a crouton. They're a piece of lettuce. And they have talent on that team. And the NL Central is not exactly a powerhouse, but we'll get to that a little bit later. At number 16, hovering around contention, it'll take a big burst by this team and a big collapse from Minnesota. But the Tigers have won 6 out of their last 10 games, and they can pitch, and they can hit, and they're showing that there's some real excitement that should be happening in Motor City come next year. The Red Sox are number 15. I don't know why they're that high, quite frankly. They've dropped 7 of their last 10 games. They're barely above 500. Again, a very big improvement from last year. They're actually a competitive team. They're just not good enough to be in the playoffs yet. They filled some holes, and Duran is shown to be a legit player. They have some decent pitching. One good starting pitcher, one difference-making bat, and a little bit of bullpen depth. The bullpen for the Red Sox has been atrocious recently. But all those things I just mentioned could go a very long way. The Cubs have won 6 out of their last 10 games and are, again, hanging around nominally contending. They have some great defense, and they played the Dodgers very well recently. They should be an exciting team. Remember, everyone was picking them to win the division at the beginning of the year. I think I did. But here we are. They're, 5 games above 500. They're competitive, but it may be a little too late. Now, the Twins have to be careful. They've had a bunch of injuries recently. They've had some bad stretches recently, and they can't have too many of those because if they do, they may be inviting Detroit, Seattle, and Boston back into that final wild card spot. The Twins have dropped 6 out of their last 10 games, and while they are 9 games above 500, for most of the year, they have a perfect summer score. They've been in a playoff spot every single day since Memorial Day. They haven't slipped out for one moment. For a while, it looked like they were going to contend for the Central title, but now they got to hang on for dear life. Speaking of hang on for dear life are the very confusing Atlanta Braves. 1 minute they're in, 1 minute they're out. 1 minute Chris Sale looks a Cy Young winner, the next minute they're getting pounded. They've gone 5-5, and while they're certainly going to have a winning record, they are going to be in a dogfight with the Mets for the rest of the year. The Astros are at number 11. They've split their last couple of games, and they're playing the A's as I record this. And the Astros are a strange team. They're one of the strangest teams ever told. The Astros are a team that sometimes look like they have no business being in the playoffs. Remember, they had a losing record for a big chunk of the year. People wonder if they were going to start selling. And yet, if they make the playoffs, I kind of think they're going to win the pennant. Why? Because why not? Who else are we going to be talking about here? They can pitch. Ronel Blanco, Yusei Kikuchi, Framber Valdez. They have a good pitching staff. And the bats are starting to click. I don't think they're going to be a 90-win team. And I think they're probably going to win the pennant. Although the other team that could win the pennant is looming large. And I will mention them because they're later in this. And okay, that is the Astros. And what we have left are 1 through 10. And believe me, these are 10 that are really cramped together. When you consider there's only about 2 or 3 weeks left to the season, you would think there would be a team that is really pulling away as the obvious favorite. And the fact of the matter is there isn't. All right, let's talk a little bit about our good friends over at Tonal. It's sometimes hard to get your butt to the gym. And sometimes those of us who, life gets in the way. I have 2 jobs and I'm getting a master's degree and I'm a dad. So fitting in a workout could be stressful. But with Tonal, you can be efficient with your workouts and have them personalized just for you and are available with the amount of time that you have. Even the most dedicated gym goers struggle with consistency, the commute, waiting for weights, other people's sweat. makes skipping a workout very tempting. With Tonal, you can choose from thousands of workouts and train in a way that you actually enjoy at home. Tonal is the world's smartest and most effective strength training system that helps get you stronger. Powered by AI, Tonal learns with every rep so it can deliver workouts personalized just for you. Tonal learns from your movement and provides suggested weight recommendations for every move with detailed progress reports. They can even personalize the program and give you workout suggestions or recommendations based on individual goals. It's like having a personal trainer at home with you, as Tonal will optimize every workout just for you. Unlike traditional gym equipment, Tonal uses adaptive digital weight to advance your training techniques. From professional trainers to the mom of three to your pal Sully, Tonal is trusted by thousands who have become their strongest. Right now, Tonal is offering our listeners $200 off your Tonal purchase with a promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Tonal.com and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off your purchase. That's Tonal.com, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Thanks for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your second listen, hey, make it Locked On A's, and let me tell you why. First of all, you get more of your pal Sully. For the next few weeks, we're going to be covering the A's, who are oddly a competitive team. And they're not going to win anything this year, but they're playing teams very, very hard. And you got Lawrence Butler and Brent Rooker and Mason Miller and a lot of exciting players on this young A's team. But it's also melancholy because it's the end of an era of a bizarre but fruitful time in Oakland. Be part of the celebration, be part of the frustration. It's Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. And number 10 are the Mets. And boy, I will eat all the crow in the world if the Mets make the playoffs, because I was urging them to drop their players. Anyone with expiring contract, I told them to sell. It's a seller's market. And I didn't think the Mets had this in them. But Francisco Lindor, while his name is not Shohei Ohtani, and I think Ohtani is the National League MVP, I don't care if he doesn't play the field. But man, Lindor is living up to his contract, and he is being the player that the Mets want. And whether or not he wins the MVP or not is irrelevant. What's relevant is pushing this Mets team into the postseason. Remember, this is a team that Buck Showalter fired. Teams that fire Buck Showalter go to the World Series. If this is Baltimore versus the Mets, then it will be the all former Buck Showalter teams, and there'll be something in the water there. And the Mets have won 8 of their last 10 games, so something is happening there. The Royals have split their last 10 games. They're playing the Yankees as I record this. They're tough. They're very tough. They can pitch, they can hit, and they would be really tough in a short series. It would not stun me if Salvador Perez and company go far this postseason, especially with Bobby Witt, who is not the American League MVP, but man, he is a terrific runner-up, kind of like Francisco Lindor. And number 8 have been the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are number 8. They split their last 10 games. A few weeks ago, they looked like a pennant contender. Remember, they're the defending National League champions. And Zach Gallen, everyone looked like they were pitching great again. Ketel Marte was back. But they've had their ups and downs. Are they going to get hot? Or is this going to be a quick exit? They're certainly going to be a playoff team. But it's very interesting to see whether or not this team is going to be 2 and out or have another stunning October. They could do both. Same with San Diego. San Diego has been unbelievable since the first couple months of the season. And now Yu Darvish is back. And Manny Machado is the all-time home run leader in the history of the San Diego Padres. If Yu Darvish is even close to being what he was in the past, suddenly their pitching staff got a little bit of a boost. I'd be scared to face San Diego in a short season, and they're a short series. They're number 6. And number 7. And number 6 are the most confusing team in baseball, the Baltimore Orioles. Sometimes they look like they're going to win 100 games and make people forget about Frank Robinson, Jim Palmer, and Boog Powell. And sometimes they look like the 1988 Orioles who dropped their first 21 games. And there doesn't seem to be much of a middle ground with this team. They're either going to go all the way to the World Series, or you will forget that they even made the postseason by the time we got to Columbus Day. Do we still celebrate Columbus Day? I don't know, but you know when Columbus Day is. So there you go. At number 5 are the single most underrated playoff contender out there, and that's the Milwaukee Brewers. Very quietly this entire season, They've not had a tremendous slip up. They've not had a big dive. They've not had a super run, but they haven't had a super drop. And their pitching up and down has been fantastic. Do not sleep on the Milwaukee Brewers. We all know the Dodgers are vulnerable. We all know the Phillies are capable of having a bad week. And if there's any year the Brewers could win the pennant, then frankly, it was 2021 when they should have beaten the Braves and they should have won the pennant that year. But this year is looming large. A team with good pitching up and down and some decent power. Just the idea of Bob Uecker calling a World Series game again is enough to make you want to see that happen. And number 4, the Cleveland Guardians, who right now, I think the American League pennant is going to be won by either the Astros or the Guardians. And the fact that the Guardians are getting really good starting pitching to go along with their dynamic bullpen should make everyone absolutely quake in their boots. Jose Ramirez is having a year that would be an MVP candidate any other year. But the fact of the matter is, okay, Tyner Bybee is pitching well. Ben Lively is back. And then you have Joey Cantanillo nearly throwing a no-hitter. Then you had the Matthew Boyd is pitching well. Their bullpen is lights out. If their starting pitching could be merely pretty good with that bullpen and some of their bats, I would be terrified. I would be stunned if the ALCS was not Houston versus Cleveland, which means it will be the Yankees versus the Orioles. And number 3 of the aforementioned Yankees. How will they do? Is Nestor Cortez out of the bullpen a good solution? It might be. Will Clay Holmes even be on the roster? Probably not. Is Jazz Chisholm the most underappreciated pickup because he gives the rest of that lineup a little bit of a spark? Yeah. Will you beat the Yankees if you shut down Juan Soto and Aaron Judge? Absolutely. So the Yankees really are depending on 2 players. If they get Soto and Judge hitting like crazy, then chances are the World Series is coming back to the Bronx for the first time since 2009. If not, then Aaron Boone will not make it to the World Series, just like he didn't in 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and then in 2024. Have you seen a pattern developing? And number 2 are the LA Dodgers. Yamamoto's back. Huzzah! Flaherty looks like he's a perfect fit. Great. I don't know who else is pitching. They're going to be a 90-some-odd win team. They're not going to win 100 games. I don't think anybody's going to win 100 games. The Phillies would have to basically almost win out to make it to 100. The Dodgers have the bats. They have Flaherty. And man, oh man, will you cross your fingers on those other games. Who knew when everyone was saying it's not fair, the Dodgers have too many players left and right, that their pennant hopes are going to be sitting on the shoulders of Jack Flaherty? Go to FanDuel and figure out how much that bet would bring you in. And number 1 are the Philadelphia Phillies, who have won 8 out of their last 10 games. Kyle Schwarber is homering at will. And I talked with Michael Ferraro, and we both believe, even though Harper had a terrific game the other day, shut Harper down at least for a week. Get him rested up. Get him healthy. You need that bat in the postseason because the Phillies could go all the way, or we could have a Cleveland-Milwaukee World Series, which quite frankly would be pretty cool. All right, so there you go. From counting down, number 1, Phillies, Dodgers, Yankees, Guardians, Brewers, Orioles, Padres, Diamondbacks, Royals, and Mets. That's 1 through 10. 10 through 20, 11 through 20, we Astros, Braves, Twins, Cubs, Red Sox, too high, Tigers, Cardinals, Mariners, Giants, and Tampa Bay. And then the bottom 10 are Cincinnati, Texas, Pittsburgh, the Blue Jays, the Nats, the A's, the Angels, the Rockies, the Marlins, and of course, the White Sox. Which brings us back to the trivia question, which I'm repeating. September 11th, which is actually the day I'm recording this too, we all remember the Mike Piazza home run, the dramatic home run against the Braves in the first game back in New York after the attacks. It was a 2-run home run. Who was on base? Who was on base for the Mike Piazza home run? So put your answer down here on YouTube or on Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now, or Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Giving my sympathy to Bowden Francis of Toronto, and going down the power rankings. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.